Welcome to Mayo Music. I am your host, Dan Pulaski. Mayo Music is an interview series where I chat with artists, musicians, and producers about their journeys in the music industry. Today I spoke with Milkman, an EDM producer who has recently performed at EDC, Electric Forest, and Jay-Z's Made in America Festival. His EP Fragments debuted at number 2 on the iTunes electronic charts. He has shared the stage with the likes of Dada Life, Diplo, Crystal Castles, Kid Cudi, Lil Jon, and many more. In the interview, we talk about how he went from playing house parties in college to performing at EDC. He gives us some tips on ways to build your audience, whether it's through social networks, SoundCloud, blogs, and collaborations. And finally, he talks about his experience working with management agencies and booking agents, and he gives us some important insight into that world. Let's do it. So Greg, you started making mashups in college and you were playing house parties in Isla Vista. Tell me about the first track that really got attention kind of just outside of that small scene there.
The first track that really got attention was Tribute to Miss Lonely, and that starts off with a sample from Red Hot Chili Peppers, and it's funny because I made that track really quickly, and I kind of didn't think it was that good, and I was showing my friends, and they were like, yeah, it's cool, whatever, and then I threw it on the album because at that point I was just didn't really care. I just put everything I'd made on the album, and then out of nowhere, that one became the track of the album, and still to this day, like when you look back at my mashup stuff, that is probably one of the top 3 or 4 mashups I made.
So how did that happen? I mean, so you released the album. Where'd you put it out? What was that? It was the attention just around the whole album, not that necessarily that individual track.
No, so that was before I even had a real fan base. I was just pumping tracks out. It wasn't for, 6 months or so after I released music publicly that I started getting any kind of listeners from outside of the UCSB community. At UCSB, it was pretty much just me, my close group of friends, and then it kind of networked out from there. But that was, I mean, I sound so old saying this, but that was before really YouTube music had taken off, and there was SoundCloud, Twitter wasn't even really a thing. There wasn't even Facebook pages. I actually had a Facebook group that was called I Listen to Milkman. And that is where I put it out, and that was just for UCSB students. So it was hard really to get it out there initially because that kind of music was very underground at the time. It was still hip hop, and there wasn't really any means online there wasn't HypeM and all that stuff yet. So it was Facebook really, because that was when Facebook was kind of in its prime and everyone was using Facebook a ton for everything. And once I got it up on there and I put it up on a mega upload or a Hulk share or something like that for people to download, then right after I did that, people sent it out to their friends from high school. And then within days, I started seeing little, statistics popping up from, Pennsylvania and New York. And it was an overnight thing. All of a sudden, I started having fans from other states. It was awesome.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
that's very cool. So there was no blogs or anything. It was just through Facebook, basically.
No, I mean obviously there were blogs, but I was,
yeah.
going. I had no idea that I was even gonna. I was just kind of making them for fun, and I really it's all because my friends and their friends who shared the music with their friends at the time that were at different schools that I was able to sprout little, sprout fans in different areas.
Mm-hmm. And I know it seemed to happen pretty fast, right? You were playing shows, house parties in IV, and then suddenly you were playing shows, across the country, right? So I mean,
yeah, it was really quick.
I mean, tell me, how did you make that transition? What was tell me about your first show, outside of Santa Barbara, and kind of how it got set up.
Okay, so I remember my very first show was at what was it? Bucknell University in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was one of my very first real fan bases. Bucknell University and Lehigh University. And I remember I got an email from someone in a fraternity, one of the frat members, and they were like, "Hey, we want you to come out and play our party." And I was just like, my mind was blown. I was like, "No way does someone want to fly me out and pay me money to come play their party. Like, this is what I did for fun. Like I was stoked. Anyone having a party, I'd be like, hey, can I please play your party? I love doing it. And so my buddy at the time, Seth, I asked him, I was like, hey man, they're giving me like a couple $1,000s for flights and food and hotel and all that. Like, can you come with me? And then we'll go. And we hung out there the whole weekend. I played 2 shows, or I played like afternoon that night, and then we crashed at the frat house, and then the next day I did the same thing. And I spent the whole weekend there, and it was awesome. It was so fun. And then right after that, they all just started rolling in.
That's cool. So you got an invitation there, and is that kind of how you started landing gigs more consistently after that? It was getting invitations to cities and or I guess in that
Yeah.
case
So
college towns.
I didn't have any what you would like call professional help. I had no real management, no agency, none of that until about 2 years ago. It was me and this friend from college. We did everything together. It was just like the two of us. He booked the shows, did all the management stuff. I mean, anything that needed to get done that wasn't music, he did it. So we didn't really know how to find shows or promote ourselves or do anything like that. So we basically just had a little form on my website that was like, hey, you want me to come play your party? Give us your info. And every show we did was an inquiry like, hey, can you come play our show? Which was awesome for us because we didn't have to go out and do anything. So it'd be like we would book a Friday, Saturday here, and then we'd have like 3 weeks off, and then, it was kind of whenever a show would come in.
Ah, very cool.
Yeah.
Um, okay, let's see. I kind of want to talk about blogs a little bit.
All right.
You know, kind of how did you when you were at UCSB? At what point did you start realizing that blogs were, something you needed to start getting involved with? And kind of how did you kind of start building those relationships in the early days?
Um, I really didn't even. I wasn't into the whole blog thing, and I didn't realize how important that was to spreading your music. I got really lucky, and people were putting my stuff up on their blogs, and I didn't even realize it until you start doing some like Google searches of your album and see if people were putting it up anywhere, and then I started seeing, blog posts of it, and after that, and I saw how many people were commenting on it and getting downloads from there. After that, we realized, wow, this is a major outlet to reach fans, way more than we could ever do on our own, way more than Facebook or Twitter that we were doing at the time. And so from there, when we would do exclusives and stuff like, hey, we have a new album coming out. You're a huge blog. You've posted our stuff before. How about I give you 2 tracks for a free download in exchange for you guys putting us on the homepage, And all everyone who runs a blog is a cool person, They like music. They're into, we're all in the same stuff. So at like festivals and stuff, we hang out, and it's, they're down to help you out if you help them out. It's a
Okay.
symbiotic relationship.
So okay, so it wasn't like in the beginning you were actually getting posted without even submitting your stuff or like pounding down doors. Like you were there, and then so
Yeah,
later you were able to then say, hey, obviously you guys dig my stuff. You guys post it without even me begging you. So
exactly.
then it was easy to kind of do that. Were there any blogs that you really wanted to get on that you actually made an effort to try to get your stuff on, but it was a struggle, or did you kind of just focus on the blogs that already liked your stuff?
Well, like I said, at that time there weren't a ton of blogs that we were all familiar with. What it really came down to was when HypeM started taking off, we started looking at where the most plays and hearts were coming from on HypeM, and then we would focus our interests on those blogs. Um, but like I said, I really didn't get the whole blog thing for so long. I just got so lucky that these people were posting it on their own. And that really attributed so much to my success as Milkman. Really.
Okay, and obviously now you have good relationships with these blogs, and it's kind of
Yeah.
it's much easier to do things with
Exactly.
new releases and tracks and things. Cool. I wanted to talk a little bit about because in college you were doing mashups, and
Hmm.
then at a certain point you transitioned to EDM, and it appears you've made that transition rather successfully. I mean, I know your first track, "Breaking Free," did really well.
Hmm.
Like, do you have any tips? Like you're definitely obviously not the first artist to transition, from mashups to EDM or any musical kind of transition. Like, do you have any tips for an artist doing that? Without, I guess, kind of disappointing their fans or kind of
Well,
departing from
you're
that.
gonna
Was it a
disappoint
struggle?
fans. I mean, I still get tons of comments and emails and stuff from people who are upset that I'm not still doing the mashup stuff,
Mhm.
and I totally get it. I mean, if one of my favorite artists was completely changed their style and I wasn't into that new style, I would be upset too. But for me, from the artist side, it wasn't it wasn't doing it for me anymore. I had to progress. Um, so I guess if you're looking to do that, I'd say dip your toes in it very slowly. My Breaking Free was that first track was the last track on a mashup album, and I put it on there. And then from there, I did a couple singles while releasing some like more mashup tracks in the process, and I slowly transitioned. And actually, to this day, my show is you can always call it mashup. I mean, it's not a just it's not like one track next track DJ show. I have tons of bootlegs and stuff I'm doing live. So my stuff is still very mashup y, but yeah, I would say don't just cut it off and then start from scratch. If you're
Yeah.
gonna do that, just transition out of one and start up a new stage name, and try it out. Do what like Clockwork did with RL Grime,
Hmm.
something like that.
Okay. And let's talk about Breaking Free a little bit also. The video for it.
Uh-huh.
Um, how did you make that video? That was, I could be wrong, but that was one of the first videos you made, put out?
Yeah, that was my first music video, and it was my buddy from high school. He went to USC Film School, and he was just getting his production company off the ground. So he's got a full production thing going on now, and at the time he was getting it going. And so he had all the professional stuff that I needed to make a video, and all the crew. They were all fresh out of college, and so I could do it affordably. There's no way I was going to be able to do a high budget music video. So I talked to him in a couple of weeks. We found some dancers and we found a sound stage and kind of figured it out. And they had a team there, so we got like the snow machine and all that. And we put it together for I don't know, it was like $5,000, and that was most of that cost was like the dancers and the equipment rentals, like the lighting and everything.
Hmm.
And I think it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It was a great video. I know I saw, so I went to check out the video just recently, and in the notes, like the video right now has like 5,000 views or something, but it says in
Yeah.
the notes the original had 250,000 views or more. Why was it? Was there a reason it was taken down or?
Yeah, so like I said, up until a couple years ago, I did everything on my own, and now I work more with now there's all these different companies and teams that you can partner with. So I partner with this great YouTube, and they have outlets in like TuneCore and SoundCloud and stuff, and they're like a YouTube partner distribution company. And when we made that switch, we actually had to start up a whole new channel. Um, and it sucks to lose views, but anyone who judges something off the amount of views is you're not really looking at it for what it is, more so just how popular it might be. So it sucked, but it wasn't a huge issue for me. I was totally fine, and now I have many more opportunities, and you know the door opened for me in a lot more places by doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now there's you talked about YouTube and the whole YouTube music scene kind of
Hmm.
blowing up or kind of how it wasn't as huge when you were in college and stuff.
Yeah.
I watched kind of during that time. I watched artists like Time Flies, who invested heavily
Yeah.
in building their audience on YouTube and with video content. And I
Totally.
noticed, besides Breaking Free, I think you might have had a couple others, but you really haven't put out a ton of music videos. Was that
No.
has that been kind of like a was that a conscious effort to just focus on putting out music and touring, or did it just kind of happen that way?
I mean, music videos are really cool, especially when they're done right. And they definitely give, once a user sees a music video, that sets the tone for the song for any time they listen to it from there on out. So don't think I'm not all for music videos. I love them. But for me, um, I just, the platform for me wasn't nearly what it was for me on SoundCloud or on Twitter or Facebook or anything like that. So yeah, we didn't invest heavily in the music video. Most music videos cost more than the just from a business side than the revenue, unless you're like a Time Flies or a Boyce Avenue, who are really good friends of mine, and they're the biggest band in the world on YouTube. So don't get me wrong, I totally understand from their perspectives. But for someone like me, I mean, it's the EDM scene isn't super huge on music videos, anyways. Unless you're one of the pop mainstream acts. So I don't know. They're fun and everything, but I think real fans like seeing those things pop up on SoundCloud more often.
Okay. So for you, it was like a cost versus kind of value thing. Is that kind of what I'm getting from you? Or
Yeah, and it's just it takes time, and you gotta. It's a lot of coordination, and for me, it takes me a while to make stuff. I'm very perfectionist, and I just delete shit all the time and start from scratch. And so for me, spending a week, coordinating music video and doing all that, it's just not worth it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like we have music videos, like ideas in the works right now for this new album I'm working on, but previously it hasn't been that big of a deal for us, especially with my small YouTube audience.
okay.
Yeah.
Now I want to talk about After Hours, which
Yeah.
is a mix, a 40-45 minute mix slash podcast you put out, every couple weeks. But I noticed you kind of stopped doing that, or
Yeah.
maybe I just didn't see them on SoundCloud or whatever.
No.
Was there a reason for that besides just being super busy, or?
Well, there is a reason for that. From January, I did my last one in like late January, early February, and until I still haven't put one out. And I've been in the studio. We've been working on this new album, and so we're kind of have this plan of we're kind of slowing down everything. We haven't done much Facebook posting, Twitter posting, YouTube posts, anything like that. We're just kind of slowing everything down, getting all this content ready, and then very soon now, actually, it's just going to be boom. After Hours starts up again. Single releases, music videos, interviews, and blog posts, and just kind of do a whole like whirlwind of content starting up again. We find that to be more effective than one thing every couple months.
Okay. Okay. So it wasn't you didn't like stop it for
No,
because like you didn't think it was valuable anymore. You didn't like doing it or anything.
not at all.
Okay.
I love the after hour mixes. They're really fun. I get to I get up on the new music, which I'm doing all the time anyways for my live sets, and it's fun for me. I just kind of get to organize them and then record the live set and pump it out, and people love them. Everyone I talk to is like, oh, I go to the gym and put it on and everything. But I'm not worried. There's countless mixes available out there on a weekly basis.
Mhm.
So once my new album comes out, we'll be getting the after hours back up and running.
Yeah, I mean, I love the mixes. I listen to all kinds of them, like you said, like going to the gym or like a solid work, hour of work that you just want to crank out and not be, flipping through songs. I was curious though. It seems like it seems like almost every single producer has, a mix or a podcast they're putting out, whether it's,
Yeah.
bi-weekly, weekly, monthly, or whatever. Like, do you think? Like, what's your kind of stance on that? Like, do you think now it's like producers are forced to kind of be more creative with those mixes? Because I notice a lot of them seem to kind of they kind of start to blend together. They kind of start to
Totally.
repeat a lot of it's like the same stuff. It seems like remix. Some are different. Some
Totally
are
interchangeable, and
yeah.
kind of like the reason I left Mashup, it was just the same samples, the same, you know, everyone was just doing the same thing and just putting them in different orders. I think a lot of the scene is oversaturated in all markets. That's why I said not worried about people finding a mix. I think the cool mixes are people who kind of bring things back and have different vibes. Felix does a great job with his because he'll bring tracks back from years and years ago, and he'll have new stuff in there. So that's one that's really cool. But most of them are just, oh, what's top 10 on Beatport this week? Let's just run them together, and everyone knows that it's not difficult to beat match, one
Yeah.
song and the next. So
Okay,
no,
so it
it's
just is
totally
gonna force
saturated.
people.
Yeah, totally saturated radio market in that sense.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's see. I wanted to talk about a quote you had in another interview. It's from a few years back, so pardon me if maybe your perspective has changed.
Okay.
But basically, what it says is it says nowadays, in this genre, 50% of people make good music, or it's about 50% about making good music. The other 50% is about getting enough people to behind you to sell it. And I think you went on to say, you have to be lucky enough to get the attention, and let's be real, a lot of people are doing it right now, but aren't nearly as big as they could be.
Yeah.
I guess kind of my question was, like, do you have any advice? How do people create their own luck? How do artists, get better at selling themselves and recruiting and getting people behind them? Is there
Well,
anything you've done kind of throughout your career to kind of, do that?
I'm lucky in the sense that when I started getting Milkman off the ground, it was years before the whole DJ thing blew up. So I was able to move the fans with me as I transitioned into EDM and that. But nowadays, if you're just starting, and you're looking and you're making stuff that's very similar to everything else, it sounds like Alesso or sounds like Data Life, it's going to be really hard to rise. I think right now, and what this scene really needs, I think a lot of people agree with me, and what will get you to really get a spotlight in this oversaturated crowd is doing something completely different. Don't aspire to sound like your favorite artist, because then you're not special in any way. You may make the greatest music ever, and if they released it under someone who's a top 100 DJ, that song would have been huge. But since your name, it's all branding nowadays, anyways. So doing something completely different, like when the trap thing got up and going, that was completely different. Now there's starting to be some really cool, weird subgenres of EDM that are exploding quickly, and everyone's always looking for that new sound. So if you find something that's cool, market that and be that, be the Skrillex of that new genre. I think that really is the only way to really take off.
Okay. So distinguishing your sound, creating that unique sound. But I mean, how does an artist get better at selling themselves? Kind of that second part of the equation. So they kind of figure out the sound, so they're not,
Yeah.
they're not being the next, big room, EDM producer, but they have their sound. So you think just having that sound's enough and kind of getting it out there in enough people's
Oh
ears?
no, you shameless promotion. I mean, you gotta be on your friends anytime you put something out. Post this on your Facebook. Tell all your friends. You got to be so annoying. My friends were so fed up with me in college when I had my any new music out. That's what you got to do, because it starts with your group and then it spider webs out from there. Um, just shamelessly email blogs. Try to get on, even if it's a small blog that only gets 30, 40 views a day. Get on those first. And then from there, if you have a couple blog posts from there, then try for one that gets 100 views a day. I mean, reach out to other artists who are in your same level and do collaborations with them. They have 800 followers on SoundCloud. Get their 800 followers to see your name. Really, SoundCloud is, I think, for anyone who's actually in the scene, SoundCloud is the best. Be in the SoundCloud. There's groups in SoundCloud. Find your subgenre, that sound, go in there, post your stuff, go comment on other people's stuff and say, hey, this is awesome. Check out my stuff. It sucks to do, but when you're just getting started, that's the only way to really get people to listen to your music.
Mhm. Okay. I want to talk about Electroc, your
Okay.
label.
Yep.
Why did you start that? What was the reasoning behind that, and kind of what's going on with it now?
I am a huge proponent of like DIY kind of like I DIY music, publishing and making. I do everything myself, writing, mixing, mastering. So why not be the label myself also? I totally get the points or why people use labels and why people sign with labels. For me though, I like having total control of everything. If I make a song and I want to put this person on it and release it tomorrow, I can do that. I've dealt with labels before, and it takes all the creativity out of it. There's just so many contracts and things you can and can't do, and time frames, and too many people having a voice in on your music, and yeah, you get a lot more promotion. And if you're a smaller artist, definitely if you have an opportunity for a label because they'll get you in their circuit. But for me, I would much rather have total control of what I put out and not be associated with a huge label than kind of give up a lot of my creative control
Hmm.
to a label.
Did you also start it as a to create a platform for other artists to kind of work with
Yes,
you?
originally that is the plan. I have been way too busy. I have a group of artists actually that I think are great artists, and you'll see my new album that's coming out very soon. They're featured on my tracks. So you'll and I'm hoping that with their new music that they'll sign to my label and I can showcase them. Um, but if they want to go with a bigger label, I'm not going to stop them. I mean, I totally get, um, that's what they got to do. But that is hopefully the goal of Electroc is to start bringing in more artists, showcase their music.
Okay, so is that kind of the pitch to them? Is it you can have all the creative control you want, and then we already have
Oh,
this built
totally.
in.
I
Yeah.
mean, I I'm not gonna say what you can and can't do. I mean, really, most indie labels these days are basically just a medium for your music to go onto, you know, Beatport, iTunes, Amazon, Spotify. And then whoever owns that label is going to promote it. If you're on Revealed, then you might get lucky and Hardwell will tweet about it or something. That is really what you're signing for and giving up, 30, 40, 50% of your music for is having a bigger artist hopefully support it. So if that's what you're looking for, go for it. If not, come to Electroc. I'll put your music where you want it, and
There we
no,
go.
we're not signing anyone yet, but plans to.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about getting shows in the early days. I wanted to talk about kind of some of the big festivals that you've played and kind of how you got there. You played EDC, you played Electric Forest, you played Jay-Z's Made in America festival. How did you get on these festival bills? What's kind of the process for those? Um, yeah.
That was thanks to me finally working with professional companies, not my buddies from my fraternity in college. It was great doing everything with them, but like I told you earlier in this interview, we had no means of reaching out and you know, getting jobs. We basically waited for a show to come to us to ask us to put us on there. So I signed with Madison House, which is this booking agency out of Denver, and they're amazing. They got Base Nectar and are totally connected in. They do a lot of like the Electric Forest stuff. So I signed with them, and they were able to get my music to Insomniac and to the festivals, and get me slots on there. So I mean, I don't think I would have gotten those festivals had I been with still with my buddy from college. I think at a certain level you need the people who have the contacts in the industry, since most of this industry is who you know and how much they like you.
Hmm. So how did you sign with that booking agency?
I got with a management company, Free Association Management, and they said that it's time for you to have a professional booking agency. And I said, if that's what you guys think, then for sure. and so they found them for me, and they've been excellent. I mean, I'm a huge proponent also of more mom and pop shops than the big guys. There's loads of smaller booking agencies and smaller management companies that will do 10,000 times more stuff for you than if you sign to WME or something.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I
so that
guess
would also be my advice.
okay. So I guess the core of my question, I was trying to get to like how you, I guess went from just you and your buddy to then signing with a booking agency and a manager. So like, did you reach out to Free Association, or did they kind of approach you? Like, what did you need to show them in order for them to take you on, or was it? How did that
Yeah.
work?
So it's funny because I had no interest in even signing with a real company or anything. My agent or my manager now was a mutual friend of our friend at the time. So me and my Tommy is the guy who I did everything with. We just went to lunch, and my manager John, he was just a mutual friend, so he came to lunch too because he was in town, and we started talking, and he was such a cool guy, and we had a great time. And so at the end of the conversation, we were like, "Hey, would you want to like kind of work with us?" And it started off as like a 50-50 thing, like my buddy from college, and then John, who was in the industry and knew how to do everything, he kind of like guided us and helped out and everything. And then eventually my buddy was like, this isn't for me anyways, so you just go full time with John, and it just worked out that way. Everything just kind of fell into place. We didn't go out looking for it or anything like that.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
All
mean,
right.
a
Yeah.
lot of my success has been seriously things just falling in the right place and getting lucky, and it sucks, but that is usually how most people make a name in this industry.
hmm Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think there's still element of like making your own breaks or creating, like putting yourself out there, willing to get out and meet new people, and go on lots of
Yeah.
shows, meeting lots of people. But anyways, let's move on. I got just a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
Um, let's fast forward a bit, I guess, and talk about Time Flies remix all the way.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about that track. Obviously it's done really well. Did you reach out to? You said your buddies with Time Flies. Did you hit them up before you made that track, or did you just make it
Yeah.
and show it to them, or
No,
tell me
so
about that?
I was on a tour with Time Flies. It was me, Sammy Adams, and Time Flies. And we have my management company and their management company they work together a lot. So we kind of have a lot of mutual friends in on the business side of our music. Those guys are, Rob and Cal are really cool guys too. Totally chill. So we are just kind of hanging out backstage after one of the shows, watching a baseball game or something, and I asked them if it'd be cool if I remixed the new track, because this was before it came out and I heard them play it live. And they're totally cool guys. They're like, yeah, if our management says it's cool, no worries. And so of course I asked the manager, and manager's cool guy, no issues there. So they sent me over the stems, and I just liked the track. I wanted a spin of it for me to play live. I made that remix in like 6 hours. I wasn't I didn't think it was going to be do that well. But it's just a fun, Cal does such an amazing job with the vocals that you kind of put anything behind there and it would be a hit.
hmm So was there anything else you did with it besides Time Flies? I'm sure promoted it a bit. Did you get it on some blogs and stuff too, or?
No, like I said, that was once again, I put it out on my SoundCloud and I put it out on my Facebook. That's kind of how I do most of my remixes and stuff. When it comes to official releases, yeah, we look for a blog to put it on and everything, but usually I put it out. It takes like a week or so for it to start like filtering through and reaching people who are in blogs, and then started showing up on blogs, and then once it's on one blog, another blog sees it, and it just kind of like is a roly-poly effect from there. Just kind of like
Uh-huh. Oh,
yeah.
so you actually on those types of releases, remixes and stuff, you actually don't even send it directly to blogs. You just put it out and let them pick it up as they may.
That's what I'm telling you, man. My whole
Wow.
thing is I like to just do what I want to do. I mean, I made that remix, sent it to my manager. He was like, "Yeah, it's cool." And so the next morning, I hopped on Photoshop. I slapped my logo on top of their logo, and put it on SoundCloud. That's really that's really how I do 90% of my music.
Wow, that's awesome.
Just I just kind of make it and I put it out. That's what music. That is really what music should be all about. It's just you make it and you put it out. You know, it shouldn't be. I hate when it's like you make something and then you got to wait 4 months to put it out. You know.
Hmm. Get the whole marketing campaign ready, time it
Exactly. Yeah.
right. Yeah.
I mean, I get why you have to do that, and we do stuff like that for original releases. But it's a remix. You know, it's just a fun track. Like here, listen, have fun, download it, put it on your iPod. I don't
Hmm.
care. You know.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I got just two more for you.
Yep.
Um, Tell me about like one of the maybe big mistakes you've made kind of in your career, one that you would hate to see like other producers make.
Um, Okay. Well, one of my biggest mistakes was not going with a more professional like management or agency. Years before, I had options. Years before I signed with the companies I'm with now to for them to like, help out and everything. And I think if I would have done that, then that was right when the DJ thing was taking off, and I kind of laid back with my buddy from college, and we just kind of kept doing our thing, and didn't really realize how fast the scene and the EDM thing was growing in the states, and um, kind of lost out on a lot of that, like all of a sudden attention on these DJs. You know, that was probably my biggest mistake as Milkman, but also at the same time, it was fun. I still keep doing what I want to do. You know, things might have been different if I had done that. Um, Other mistakes. Let's see. I don't know, man. I mean, like I said, everything I've done, I've just kind of done what I
Mhm.
felt was right at the time, and if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. I don't really like stress too much about. I put out tons of stuff that didn't do well.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe not following through a little bit more on the mashups, because I kind of quit right when they were still getting bigger, because I was getting just so annoyed with how many people were reusing the same samples and the same songs coming out over and over again. So I kind of exited the scene when it was kind of at its peak, which is
Mhm.
like no one does that, except for Swedish House Mafia, actually. But I don't know. As far as like real mistakes, I don't really have too many regrets in my career. You know,
Mhm.
maybe taking it a little more seriously instead of just having fun with it. But what's the point of having a dream job if it's just going to be more work, or
Yeah.
real work?
If you're not having fun with it. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. So that's
exactly.
been my whole thing. That's just still how I do my business. Is just have fun with it. If whatever works out, works out. If it doesn't, I'm not worried. I don't think when I'm
Mhm.
50, I'm going to be, you know, running up and down stages, partying to dance music. So as long as this lasts, I'm stoked. I'm very lucky that I get to live doing this full time, and that's just kind of how I do it.
Mhm. And I guess on the other side of the spectrum, what's one thing you felt like you've done really well throughout your career?
Well, for me, I was a computer science major in college and kind of a computer nerd my whole life. So being able to know how to do my own website and make my own album covers, um, and do things like free giveaways online, like coding up a forum or and like an email thing where you put your email in and you get a free download. Little things like that, especially back in the day before there were websites that like did all that stuff for you. That was huge for my career. Probably one of the biggest things was having a real online hub of all my music. I had a forum on my website. You could get all my music on my website, and it was all very well integrated into my brand. That was probably you know that was probably one of my biggest assets aside from knowing how to make music.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I think most producer DJs these days are computer nerds and know how to do stuff on their own, which is important, you know.
Cool. All right,
Yeah.
Greg. Well, that's all I have for you.
Yep.
Thanks a lot for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure,
Um,
man.
all right, man.
And
Have a good one.
one more thing to anyone who's watching out there or listening,
Uh-huh.
I do like you've heard this whole interview. I do everything myself. So if you send me a message on SoundCloud, on Facebook, on Twitter, I read all those. I respond. I'm very interactive with my fans. So if you have any questions, you want to, just say, hey, feel free to shoot me a message. Always here to talk to fans.
Excellent. All
Yeah.
right, man. Take care.
Okay. Take it easy,
And
brother.
stick around.